The Chargers' combination of Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen are becoming must-plays every week. But what about Ladd McConkey? And should A.J. Brown be faded down as well? It's time to break it down right here, right now, as we give you advice on who to start and sit at wide receiver on Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm one of your co-hosts, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about fantasy, betting, NFL for sportingnews.com. My co-host, Michelle Magdziuk, is off today, so I'll be handling the wide receiver rankings. But don't worry, she's given us all the input on her rankings, so I have access to those as well. So we'll compare, contrast, do all the good stuff here to tell you who looks like a very good play overall, getting our double stamp of approval, who we're a little bit split on, and then guys that we're fading together based on their matchups, based on their recent play, based on how their talent is being used by their quarterbacks and particular teams. So that's it for today's show. We'll get into the wide receiver rankings. If you missed the quarterback and tight end or running back rankings, those are up. Tomorrow we will bring you the prize picks of the week, as well as our FanDuel lineups with DFS to close the week, as well as our deep sleeper. So tune in for that. Speaking of prize picks, today's crossover Thursday presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the Locked On NFL promo code to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, time to dive right into the top of what Michelle and I have in the rankings. Here, Puka Nacua, he's on a record pace. He's looking at close to 2,200 receiving yards and 180 receptions. Like, he's not going to get there, but he's averaging 125 yards per game. It's a record pace. You keep playing him, the 49ers here. So if you got him, that was not a surprise for him to do the damage against the 49ers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, Jackson Smith, the Jigbud, Garrett Wilson in a good spot against the Cowboys. Justin Jefferson, you got to get up early for that. They're playing the Browns in London. So a lot of the usual suspects up near the top. George Pickens and Emeka Egbuka, two guys that are really benefiting from the injuries now to CeeDee Lamb and Mike Evans, respectively. Now, let's go to the guy that's interesting, that seems like an interloper. Michelle has him all the way at number 9. I'm at 12. It's Quentin Johnston. So much for being a bust. This guy's been outstanding for the Chargers. He scores every week, it seems like, on a big play from Justin Herbert. We were writing him off. We were all into Ladd McConkey. Then we were worried about Ladd McConkey when Keenan Allen signed. Now we're even more worried about Ladd McConkey because of what Johnson is doing as a field stretcher. He's the ultimate guy here. Justin Herbert has a big arm. They're running the ball well. Play action, set it up downfield. Quentin Johnston's a very hard guy to cover when he's on point, and with the speed, size. He reminds me a lot of when Mike Williams was healthy with Keenan Allen in his prime, and that was not a lot of time. But Quentin Johnston is looking special, really what they expected him to do as a first-round pick. Don't forget about that. He's a first-round talent. So they get the Commanders this week. The Commanders can give up some big plays in the passing game. They're still rather weak in the secondary. So that's the guy that's crashing the party up top. Now, how about Keenan Allen, his teammate? Well, I'm pretty high on him as well. I am at 13 this week. Keenan Allen is going to see a lot of balls here against the Commanders, and Michelle's got him at 18. So we're pretty close. We like him as a high-end wide receiver 2 this week. He's getting the job done. He's even scoring touchdowns. We want Ladd McConkey to get into the fun. Last week was a bad connection with Herbert. Now he's getting the targets. Eventually, with Allen and Johnson doing their thing, McConkey should see some things opening. But right now we have to fade McConkey. I've got him pretty far down this week. I have a 27, really 26, because Ricky Pearsall was scratched there. Michelle has him down at 25. So it's looking at just a very kind of just hope for the best here as a wide receiver 3. Hope he gets enough volume. That was his thing last year. He was very efficient. He had some very high floor games. We haven't seen that because of Allen and Johnson. But Allen Johnson, look, for one more week, I think they can smash. It would be great if all three could do damage in a week and the Chargers just start scoring a ton of points. That would be really helpful. But again, it's going to have to come at the expense of one of these guys if they can't get the ball downfield, and I think McConkey will have an opportunity. Deebo Samuel was a little bit banged up going into the other side of this game. Let's hope we get Jaden Daniels back this week. It doesn't really matter in terms of the targets because Terry McLaurin is going to miss another game. So Deebo is going to be the number one guy all over the field. A lot of those replacement receivers that have to all of a sudden be kind of number one roles even in a shorter term. Now, Deebo, again, I am at number 10. Michelle has him at number 12. They should have to throw often in this game. Let's hope Jaden Daniels plays. That's also going to help the Chargers' value because they'll go back and forth a little bit through the air and try to get some big plays. We want to see that a lot, and Daniels is the way to do that. Without McLaurin, you definitely have to go Deebo Samuel. Zach Ertz can also be played at tight end, we talked about. So those two guys could be the main targets all over the field here in a game where you figure the Commanders are going to have to try to keep up with the Chargers. So that's why you like Deebo this week. He's been a godsend for them with the issues they've had keeping McLaurin healthy and the depth elsewhere at wide receiver. Now, looking at Xavier Worthy, Michelle's really high on him this week. She has him at number 11. I'm also very excited about him. Wide receiver 18 really comes down to the touchdown. I think that would be the difference in those 7 spots if he can do that. The Jaguars have been pretty good defensively, but they are going to miss Trevon Walker. Remember, he's the number 1 overall pick. So the pass rush is not going to be strong against Patrick Mahomes there on Monday night. So I think there'll be time to throw the ball. Mahomes was laser focused with his 3 receivers. Worthy didn't score last week, but he was right up there with Holly Brown and Tyquan Thornton being a big factor in the game against the Ravens. You had Isaiah Pacheco, unfortunately, and not Worthy catch that other touchdown here from Mahomes. But the big plays can come. He's a big play guy. He's got good size, speed, can be used in the red zone. So Worthy, I think, could good. Only better if Rashee Rice comes back. We've seen the effect here with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. You put 2 receivers together, it strengthens both of their values because it's hard for the pick your poison. Now, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, look, every week we're going in with these guys not knowing what to do. Look, I can't drop him too far out of the top 10, so I have him at 11, actually, against the Lions. They are back at home, which could make a difference for Jake Browning. They've had 2 tough defenses away so far in different ways so far with Jake Browning. I mean, the Broncos matchup was brutal on the road. Minnesota was also pretty bad. So maybe an opportunity here for them to get on track a little bit. The Lions can be a tough pass defense, but figure the Lions are going to jump all over the Bengals. So at least Browning, let's hope he can get some garbage time. That's all we've been looking for. The unfortunate thing is a defense like the Vikings or Broncos, they're built to stop you if they have a lead with their pass rush and corners. I don't know if the Lions are quite that way. I think there's can be some points to be had by the opposing offense that you can look at. So maybe the home cooking will help get Chase and T. Higgins involved. If you look down the rankings, I have T. Higgins down to 22 this week. And Michelle's really low on him. And it makes sense because, look, if the quarterback is not getting it done, has him at 32. If he's not getting it done, then you're not going to get the numbers you're looking for from these Bengals wide receivers. Now, another set of wide receivers that are really struggling to put up fantasy points are the Eagles with the A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. We need to get into where they're ranked. Some other guys that are rising up there, along with the Chargers and Worthy here. We'll have all that for you in our next couple segments. All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's a great time to get in on the action. Come on, it's time. It's week 5, and we are excited about the games here. FanDuel is an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better for everyone, no matter what day you're in on the action, Thursday, Sunday, Monday. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started with FanDuel ahead of the Week 5 Sunday action. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also presented to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. That's of August 2025, from footwork to breathwork. Athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players that we count on in fantasy football and what we're doing to prepare every week for the game, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, it's time to continue the show and get a little deeper into the rankings that Michelle and I have here for week 5 in fantasy football. Hard to believe. Now, don't play anybody from the Packers or Bears or Falcons or Steelers. So no DK Metcalf, none of those Bears receivers, no Romeo Doubs after his big game. And, of course, no Drake London this week. So keep that in mind. So the rankings are a little bit different. Michelle and I both really like Tetero and McMillan to help your team this week. They are playing the Dolphins at home. The Dolphins secondary is not good. The Panthers are a better home offense. Tetero McMillan has been solid. He has not had the spectacular impact that we're looking for yet. He's making big plays. They just need to get him the ball a little bit more, get him to that 100-yard mark, and get him into the end zone. So I feel like this could be the week that could all come together, the 100 and a touch coming in. Look, you figure – there's two ways to look at this. The Panthers play aggressive at home, and then they jump on the Dolphins and get a lead, and you have McMillan be a factor. Or they trail to the Dolphins to figure out things with their offense minus Tyreek Hill, and you see a lot of Tetero McMillan in the action. So that's something that we're hoping for. He's just too good not to have more. And I'm wondering, had he been with a better quarterback, maybe if he was trading places with Mecca Buka as an elite option and was with Baker Mayfield, would we see different results from McMillan? But for now, this is the situation he's in. He's a very talented receiver. It's all about Bryce Young getting the ball. Maybe the Dolphins defense will oblige here. Now, Zay Flowers, look, the Ravens, we don't know exactly what they're going to look like. I was very high on Derrick Henry if we look at the running back rankings earlier in the week. But what do you get from Cooper Rush? We know that Cooper Rush is going to start at least one game this week against Houston, potentially next week as well with the bye coming up. So you could see 2 weeks of Cooper Rush while they don't take any chances with Lamar Jackson. They are 1-3, however. So Lamar takes an element away that you're not going to have from Cooper Rush. He's not going to run wild. So I think they're going to have to put the ball up in the air a little bit more. The Texans are definitely a tougher defense. They've got a pass rush and some secondary guys. Daniil Hunter can get after it up front. You've got Derek Stingley Jr. make some plays at the back end as well. So they are a tough pass defense. But Flowers, I think, with his quickness, speed, can maybe get open a little bit. They're going to have to target him a little bit more this week. Could also see Rashad Bateman just having more pocket passing the Ravens need to count on. When things break down, Cooper Rush is not going to break out and run as much. Flowers is kind of a short area receiver if you look at it with – I know Derrick Henry's there with Justice Hill if they want to go on early and late downs with the running backs, but I think Zay Flowers has to be a factor this week if the Ravens are going to win the game against the Texans. So I think he'll get some good volume, and let's hope Cooper Rush can give him the ball in open field a little bit to make some plays after the catch to really help them with the production they need, minus Lamar. Now, Michael Pittman Jr., Michelle's really high. I just don't know exactly what you're going to get. This, again, could be the difference of a touchdown. You have wide receiver 15 for Michelle, wide receiver 25 for me. I think he's definitely playable. It's the Raiders. They struggled last week in the middle of the field with Rome Odunze, big slot. Pittman can be or work the outside. Wherever he's lined up, I do like Pittman quite a bit, and he's definitely the trusted go-to guy. Alec Pierce might return, but it seems like Alec Pierce and A.D. Mitchell are kind of the interchangeable deep threats on this team, while Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman is where the bread will continue to be buttered. For Daniel Jones, this Colts offense is better at home. They get the Raiders. Daniel Jones should rebound as well. So Pittman, watch, as we always say, 15-25. He'll probably end up as wide receiver 20 or so this week. Now, A.J. Brown. I think you can straight up sit Devonta Smith. I know he's not going to probably get the Patrick Surtain matchup. I've got him pretty low here this week. I'm at 31. Michelle has him at 26. So Devonta Smith, if you've got some better options with better matchups, you can say that. But A.J. Brown, I've dropped him all the way to 20. Michelle's down to 17 for this guy. Now, typically, when A.J. Brown carps on social media, the Eagles grease him. But this not so easy this week because they're getting Patrick Surtain to the reigning NFL AP Defensive Player of the Year. And Surtain figures to be on Brown quite a bit. They'll try to contain the deeper shots to Devonta Smith with their pass rush, getting after Jalen Hurts this week. So what I also think is the Eagles are going to anticipate that. The one thing that could help maybe is Dallas Goedert missing a game where they're going to have to throw to A.J. Brown. But I can also see a scenario where running with Saquon Barkley and Hurts, of course, being a factor on the ground is going to be a better game plan. So it's kind of anticipating the game plan. Is Bo Nix going to give them a game like Matthew Stafford did coming into Philadelphia? I'm not so sure, right? I think the Broncos have some offensive upside, but do you trust Bo Nix in this environment against a Vic Fangio defense to make the game competitive, or is it going to be a lot of Hurts and Barkley putting this game away in the second half? That's also going to determine what happens with A.J. Brown. If they just go away from the matchup, don't force it, and they're able to run the ball, then they're not going to force it to A.J. Brown, and you're not going to see the numbers from him. So we're tempering our expectation. We're hoping that being A.J. Brown and having the size, speed, all that good stuff is going to help him overcome this matchup. But Devonta Smith, again, he's a little bit more big play dependent. They don't just feed him volume. Again, when Goddard is out, sometimes that helps Devonta Smith. We're not 100% sure Goddard's going to be out, but I could also see this being a very effective run-heavy attack, especially the Broncos can offer a little resistance with Nix struggling with turnovers on the road. We just know he's not as good a quarterback away from the mile high. Now, Brian Thomas Jr., another guy, we're pretty low, and I'm at 21 with him. Michelle's at 24 with Thomas. So, again, we want him to get going. I think there were some signs last week against the 49ers that he was putting it together. This passing game might have been clicking a little bit more. Part of it has been Trevor Lawrence's problem, operating and catching up well in Liam Cohen's offense. You also have Travis Etienne going off in the running game. The Chiefs are pretty good overall as a defense, so I think they'll need Brian Thomas to make some plays on Monday night if they're going to beat the Chiefs. So that's what we're hoping for. Mahomes and the Chiefs can come out with Xavier Worthy and their weaponry and do well. And that will definitely help what you get with Brian Thomas Jr. Now, we talked about Ladd McConkey. I think you have to bury him well into the wide receiver threes. We'll see how that plays out with his role. Eventually, he'll break out. He's getting the volume. He's getting the trust. Just a matter of Allen or Johnson running into a bit of a cool game. That's not necessarily going to happen this week, but you stick him in as a wide receiver 3. Now, Jakobi Meyers has been disappointing, mainly because we've had the emergence of Trey Tucker as a big play guy, is kind of taken over as the receiver that Geno Smith trusts a little bit more than Jakobi Meyers. So, looking at Myers, I'm at 22. Michelle has him at 20. He's a good slot play. The Colts can be beaten there in the middle of the field. We just saw the Colts give it up to the Rams duo. I know the Rams duo is a completely different talent level than Jakobi Meyers, but again, you can throw on the Colts, and I think there's going to be some volume there because I think the Colts will take it to the Raiders this week. Now, we do have one last segment to get into. We did lose some key players earlier in the week with Ricky Pearsall being scratched out, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb not looking good for them. We know Tyreek Hill and Malik Neighbors are not there, and then the bye week. So we'll get a little bit deeper into the rankings to give you some help. That's how we'll close the show on the wide receiver rankings advice right after this quick break. This episode, Locked On Fantasy Football, is brought to you by Game Time. NFL season's back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. Let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives an advantage right back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time. I'm always looking for college football tickets, whether you're looking for NFL or any other event, sporting or music or comedy. Just pull up Game Time in just a couple taps. You can see amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games. They're as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying my seats. I love the zone deals too. You can pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets for anything. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, this is when Michelle and I usually close the show looking at our back-end wide receiver 3, sleepers, busts, things that have not been talked about yet. Jaylen Waddle. I don't know what you're going to get from him without Tyreek Hill. didn't immediately become the Jaylen Waddle show. We saw Darren Waller being mixed in, Devin Achane out of the backfield. They might just go a little run heavier with Achane and Ollie Gordon, the rookie from Oklahoma State. But Waddle figures to get some targets. What we need is the Panthers to do some damage and score. And we know Tua Tagovailoa is not as good on the road, but I think Waddle, you just have to look at it as a wide receiver 3, especially with all those injuries and concerns this week. You can go there. I think I like him better as a play than saying playing a giant in that matchup there this week against the Saints. Saints, I don't know if they're going to have to pass all that much. I think it's going to be Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo doing their thing a little bit in that game, running. Yeah, it's just weird to say, but again, Darius Slayton is the big play threat. Wan'Dale Robinson is more the guy that you move around and can help the quarterback. You have a young quarterback in there, rookie Jackson Dart. He did have some chemistry with the tight end Theo Johnson last week in the red zone. So, again, Slayton and Robinson weren't needed much. I think they'll try to take their deep shots. That would be Slayton. Robinson's more the after-the-catch open field guy. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, the Saints need to provide some resistance. I think they can because Chris Olave has a great matchup this week. Chris Olave is getting peppered with targets by Spencer Rattler. They're just not turning into efficiency or points all that much. Olave did find the end zone against the Bills, so got the pay dirt. But again, naturally, the young quarterback is going to treat him as a security blanket. You do have Juwan Johnson coming in a little banged up in this game. That might help Olave. Rashid Shaheed has been very inconsistent. So, again, Olave is definitely the best receiver you can go to this game. If you're going to pick between Slayton or Wan'Dale Robinson, I think Robinson gives you the higher floor if you're looking for a few catches here, working on the slot and outside. Now, Stephon Diggs, I do like him against the Bills. And 28, saying past tense because I've been up and down on him this week, but the Bills do give up some points. We both have him at 28 this week. So Diggs is going to be motivated. He's actually once played there before with the Texans and had that opportunity with Buffalo, but it's prime time. Diggs has got a lot going on. We know off the field as well. Revenge game, I think he does pretty well. They need him, and he came alive for Drake May quite a bit last week. Diggs and Hunter Henry emerging as the key targets there. So Chris Godwin is maybe closer to 100%. We don't have Mike Evans in this game at Seattle. I'm not going to buy Chris Godwin yet. It's the Emeka Buka show here for the most part. It's a tough matchup in general against the Seahawks pass defense. So the guy that I would look at and pivot, we talked about Diggs. In that same game, look at Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. I think it's worth taking a shot. This Patriots secondary has been rather vulnerable in covering the wide receivers inside and out. So those are the guys that you would get as options there to consider this week. Now, look at the rest. I mean, some guys that to stand out, I think James Williams, he has a good chance to make a big play, even though it's on the road against the Bengals. I do like that quite a bit because I think Jared Goff can be comfortable. The Bengals don't have much of a pass rush beyond Trey Hendrickson. Now, the Browns, there's a lot of pivot going on with them. Dylan Gabriel is now the starting quarterback. At the same time, Cedric Tillman has gone on IR. So Jerry Jeudy is going to be a key factor here. They do want to turn the page a little bit to their younger receivers, including Harold Fannin Jr., see what he can do. They're wide receivers. So they are turning the page, trying to change things, but they're going to need Jeudy a little bit against the Vikings. I don't love that matchup, but again, he might just be a target-based play that you have to go with this week. And look, across the board, we just want some of these struggling guys to get going. It's been a big mix, right? I mean, we've had Justin Jefferson not out of the gate the same way that we would expect. Jamar Chase is struggling. We want some of these guys to get back on track. Really, the only draft pick that was really crushing it early, I mean, there wasn't a lot going on, but Puka Nacua has really delivered, and Malik Neighbors had been until he went down. Nico Collins, Amon-Ra doing just fine as well, but the top of this wide receiver board has changed quickly with Pickens, Ibuka, and Johnston really emerging up front there. So, again, next week you'll have a key bye with the Jefferson and Collins out as the Minnesota Vikings after a game in Dublin, London will not be in action. So get ahead on that with the Nico Collins, again, missing the game for the Texans. Next week, I think he's a very strong play this week against the Ravens. So, again, there is some help out there if you're really hurting at some of these positions. I think you look to the Giants. Maybe you look to Troy Franklin. If Trey Tucker is still out there, you can consider him as a play. But Coleman and Shakir also a duo that you can pretty much trust this week to do something. I think if I had to play one, Shakir seems to do a little bit more with less, and Coleman might need the bigger volume to produce there against the matchup that we have this week against the Patriots. So I just think it's really, you have to extend yourself a little bit, maybe that you don't want to, but you definitely have to consider the matchups this week. And look, one or two decisions can make and mean everything for your lineups this week. There you have it. There's your edition of Locked On Fantasy Football, your wide receiver rankings for week 5. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get and listen to your podcast. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer for Michelle Magdziuk. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck in your games, and we'll close the show with sleepers, DFS picks for Prize Picks and FanDuel on Friday.